Are you new to junk journaling and mixed media art journaling? I would love you to join me today and have some fun. Just watch along or grab some materials and journal along with me. This is one of my junk journals that I have almost filled, and it does get a little bit difficult towards the end to have the paper sitting right. So I'm going to put another journal underneath just to lift this side up to give me a flatter surface to work with. So I'll put one under there. It lifts it up, makes it a little bit more even. I'm just going to put some clips here as well just to keep that page down. I've already started collaging on this. How I made this paper was I had a book that I wasn't using anymore, and I used it to clean off my brushes and use as a paint palette. That's why it's got paint on one side, and I also then write on it to make my marked pages. With this kind of art, you do need to have some papers to start with, because otherwise you have to stop and make papers. So making papers is one of the most funnest things. And when I learned that actually preceded doing a journal spread, then I stopped to make lots of papers, and I'll show you some of those in another video and how I did that. But today I'm going to take this paper. These papers were joined together. I actually did a bit of gel printing on those ones, and you can see how I've just written Bible verses on them and torn them up to use. I'm doing a Bible verse from Psalm 29, and it talks about the ocean, how God, his voice hovers over the ocean. So I wanted to create a little bit of an ocean scene. I'm going to turn this one upside down and just paste that down. I'm using a little bit of Mod Podge. You can use any glue, just quickly sticking that down. You can use a glue stick if you want. When I have slightly thicker pages, I like to use a stronger glue than a glue stick. And I actually have a little flap in between. It was an envelope that I joined in between and cut the top edge off, so maybe I can tuck a little tag in there. And if you make any mistakes, gesso is the best thing to have. Gesso in mixed media journals, we use it to go over some areas like this. I could use gesso here and to hide some of that if I wanted to. I'll put a little bit here. And it also gives the paper a really nice ability to then hold things like watercolor, because watercolor straight on normal paper will actually just seep in. I'm taking some of my tissue paper marked papers, and when I glue that over that, it shouldn't be fully covering all the music. If you are just starting, then that's wonderful. You have to start somewhere, and be sure to reach out and ask questions, because you know where to buy things and what to use things for. It just makes it so much easier when somebody can help you. I have a little bubble underneath there that I didn't put any glue on. And if it has a crinkle look, that's okay as well, because it gives it a lot of texture. I might just let that bit dry and then I'll remove that after. And for a bit of balance, I'm going to put a little bit on this side. As I'm doing this, I'm asking the Holy Spirit to just lead me and guide me in what I'm doing. I'm allowing creativity to flow and just having fun, not thinking about it too much. So this piece of paper I used to make marks. This was from Amazon, and I like to use everything that comes across my nose. Well, I try not to hoard too much because I can't fit a lot on the bus. So I'm going to add a little bit down here. But I will use a glue stick for this one because it's very water active, this ink, and it can bleed a bit. So I didn't want that to bleed all over the place. That is the wrong glue. I've got to get one that works. Do I want a little bit up there? I love the toy look. And I just used a fan brush to do this. And I have a video on how I made my marks as well. This is dry now, so I'm going to rip this part off to give this a little bit of a rough edge here. Okay. And it's not going to go to waste. Every little scrap of paper, if it has something printed on it, I usually like to keep it. I have a little piece of lace here. Kind of reminds me of some of the coral in the sea. So I'm going to take a piece of that and sew it down the side here. Which side do I want? Quite like that edge actually. Take that bit there. This is another piece of book page that I gel printed over with some plants. I love the gradation of the different colours in the sea. So I'm just going to use that as a representation today and use that to show some of the seagrass. But before I do that, before the lines I mean, right in between the lines, I'm going to put down a little bit of clear gesso because that will help with the writing after. Because writing on this without clear gesso, it will just absorb right into the paper and it could cause bleeding. So I like to have a bit of clear gesso on there first. It has a little bit of a rough texture. So I'm using the Liquitex brand. I love using clear gesso over anything that I've drawn or painted that is water activated. So I've placed these on here and I feel I need to put a little bit of gesso over this. A little bit too contrasting, a little bit too much there. So I'm going to put a little bit of gesso over that to push that back a bit. Do I prefer that side better? I really love seeing book page, so I'm going to turn that one over. See what I mean? As you start journaling, you will change your mind many times. And that's okay. And this glue is going to dry clear, so it doesn't matter that it's all over this. I will use my heat gun in a second. So I've glued all those on up to the last one. So something so simple like this is great to do just to get you a bit of a pattern on there. With some fun just gluing things down, and once that's dry I'll write between it and then I might tuck a little tag there. I'll put maybe some little feature thing there. Not sure if I want more gesso on that. We'll have a look. I decided a little bit of gesso on there will be good. Just a couple of drops. I like being able to still see slightly through there, and this creates a lot of texture as well once the gesso is over it. I just received some of this wallpaper from Which Craft Do You Do? I'm going to cut a little circle and add that to the journal. Why I'm using this is because the texture on this just reminds me of some of the little creatures that walk along the sand and make little marks on the sand. So these are just little representations of the different things I see in the ocean. Nature gives me a lot of inspiration. Where I want to place them is another question. I feel like these are not quite working because I want a bit of contrast underneath. So I'm taking this print I did of a leaf with some blues and greens. I'll cut around that to give it a little border. I'm just doing this roughly. I'm just going to cut this down so that I can get the full background. I just remember walking along the sand during very low tide, and there's all these little marks in there from all the little sea creatures that have walked off, and I wanted that to be a representation. So I'll see where I put them. Maybe I'll put them along there like that. That might be a bit of fun. Put it there. Maybe we just have one. What about that side? I know what, I'll put a couple on here, and then I'll do one on the other side. I really like that. This is the first time I'm using wallpaper, so I would love for you to mention if you use wallpaper and what you like to use it for. There we go. And I think I'll use the Mod Podge because I want it a little bit stiffer so that it kind of lifts that area, because this is a pocket and I wanted to slide something like that into it. I really like that, you should try. I've got this little remnant here from trimming it. I'll just stick that down. This is a book page that I saved from Faith Fest, and I'm going to cut out this bird and put it on this side. He can live there. He does need a little bit of a whiter background, so that's where gesso comes in again. Let's see. Yep. Being on the bus, I don't usually have much opportunity to print digitals. So I am making the most of it while I can. Okay, I have it all glued up. It's going to sit here. I use the inside of my napkins to press over. The bird that came to visit the sea also received this lace. So I'll put some lace down here. I'm not very much of a lace person, but I do love using it every now and then. As you can see, it's quite a hodgepodge piece, this one. Just adding lots of layers and just having fun. That's the most important thing, is that you have fun. God loves us, loves to see his children play and meditate on his word and allow creativity to flow. I think I'd like a little bit of contrast on there. We'll work out what we'll put on there in a second. All right, I have found the piece. I'm going to put this there to tone and bring a little bit of its belly out and its neck. Just add a touch of this. I don't have any fabric glue at the moment, so Mod Podge is going to be it. Okay, so I decided I needed to gesso over all of that, and I used my heat gun to dry it. A heat gun's just a little bit different to a hairdryer, and it applies heat but doesn't blow things around as much as a hairdryer does. So it's a nice little tool to have. I think I used that for when I was embossing as well. I don't do much embossing now. So that has dried. I have cut out the rest of these pieces, and I'm going to use those here, like so. So I've glued them up with Mod Podge. I love using this little silicone tool. I often use brushes and then I forget to wash them, and they're all hard because I've left glue on them or gesso. So I have to get better at doing that. It's a little bit different to how I started out, and that's often what happens when we're doing these spreads. Looks like I've got a little bit too much green here, so there's nothing that gesso can't fix. I'm just going to take one of my HB pencils using my non-dominant hand to do a little botanical behind here. A bit like the seagrass. I have some printed fabric that was left over, and stapled pages on there of scraps, and stamped on it, "Creativity is contagious." I'm going to put that on there because it reminds me of the sunset, beautiful sunsets when we were travelling around Australia. Where to put it? We will put it there or there. I think on this side. So never throw your scraps away, because you can spend an afternoon just putting little things like this together of scraps. Little embellishments to stick into places. Don't want it here. Okay, I'm going to make a invisible clip. So I'm starting off with this piece of cardboard, and I've just folded it over, and I'm going to put the clip on there after I measure how wide this is. I'm going to take a little bit off, just tear a bit of that off, and then you want the large side of the clip at the back, and then we're going to cover that with a bit of glue, just the top flat bit. We don't want this fully covered here, because that has to be able to fit over the page. So we're going to spread that across there. I hope this glues down. I'm really going to have to get some fabric glue because I don't have any more, and then that's going to sit over the top. I just sewed some scraps together really roughly, and then I'm going to get my stapler and staple that down. Hopefully putting it under the layers here, we won't see it. There you go. So that will sit over there. I haven't made these for so long. I really would love to sit down and make a few more. I should have left that flap a little bit longer. Because I've got such a jagged edge here, it makes it a little bit harder to take over, but it's not impossible. So there we go. Just don't want to... Oh, I know what happened. I think I put my staple in the wrong place, so I might have to readjust that. So that's just like a little bit of fun, and adds a little bit of texture to that page to tie it all together. I think I need something there, so I might look for something and pop in that section. It doesn't look completely finished. I think this heart will work. How will I get this on? Trying to tuck a little bit of lace in there. Is that too much? This is a too much spread today. There's some days I just do that, so let's stick with that. Now I think I have to move this so that I can get that over my page. Fun little embellishment there. So I've made some tags, and it's nice to have them ready because usually I don't have them ready. I've got them on a ring, and I'm going to take this one. This was done on book page, and I just put paint on a jelly print with some leaves and pressed it through an embossing machine, and that's how I got these marks here. So this can be a little tag to write on, and I'm going to tuck it into there. So I will add a little bit of this, I think. Let's have a look. I'm so excited about these sari silks because I haven't had any before. And these were from Which Craft Do You Do in Victoria, Australia. Do I like it like that? I thought I would tie it that way, but it doesn't seem to sit very well. Do I want it sitting like that, or do I want it the other way? It's got a little... Normally I do it this way. With a little loop then, and now I tuck that through there. I'm not cutting it off yet, just so that I can see how long I need it. That's better. It sits up higher. Yes, that's better. Okay. So that sits there, and that way I can have somewhere to write on. I can even write on that with a Posca pen. Is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord is over many waters. And that's from Psalm 29 verse 3. Okay, so I'm going to tuck this in. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to add a little, with my Posca pen. I'm not sure where I put my thin one. And also on this. Okay, I'm just going to keep that simple there. With this side, I don't know if I've got anything on my brush here. This is a little brush I apply my inks with. Just using a little bit of Distress Oxide here. That's all I have on my desk at the moment. Very messy. And I'll just go over this a tiny bit too, just to... Okay. So that's done. That's going to be tucked into there. And that's our little spread for Psalm 29. I quite like that in the end. You can see how there's just so much process that goes into from the beginning of just slowly journaling with the Lord and figuring it out with Him, what we're actually going to do, because sometimes in the beginning I'm not sure what we're going to do. That's just a nice little simple spread. I hope you enjoyed your time with me today, and I'd love you to like and share and spread the word, and to come and journal with me and see what the Lord puts in your heart each time. And I'd love you to share your spread with me on Instagram at Transforming Pages, or down below in the comments. Make sure you ask any questions down there as well, and I will answer all the questions that come through. Have a wonderful day.